Let me begin with a situation that many MSME founders will immediately recognize. A founder calls his sales team into the conference room on a Monday morning. He looks at the pipeline numbers and says, "Why are we losing deals? You people are not following up properly." The sales manager nods. The sales executives promise to improve. Someone creates a follow-up tracker in Excel. Reminders start going out. For the next 2 weeks, everyone follows up more aggressively. But strangely, nothing really changes. The pipeline still feels slow, deals still stall, and after a month, the same conclusion returns. Our problem is follow-ups. Over the years, I have seen this pattern many times while interacting with MSME founders and sales teams, and the uncomfortable truth is this: follow-ups are rarely the real problem. They are usually the symptom of something deeper. Unless we diagnose that deeper issue, the cycle of frustration continues. Now the question is, why follow-ups become the default explanation? Follow-ups are easy to measure. You can count them. You can track how many calls were made. You can check how many reminder emails were sent. So, when deals slow down, follow-ups become the most visible variable. But sales is not a mechanical checklist. Deals move forward because of clarity, trust, and value perception. If those elements are weak in the earlier stages of the conversation, no amount of follow-ups can compensate. In fact, excessive follow-ups can even damage the relationship with the customer. Because from the customer's perspective, repeated follow-ups without new insight begin to feel like pressure rather than progress. So the real question is not, did we follow up enough? The real question is, did the earlier sales conversations create enough clarity for the customer to move forward? Now let me share what I have observed in MSME sales teams. In my consulting and training interactions with MSMEs, I often see a similar pattern. Sales teams are sincere, they work hard, they follow up, but their follow-ups are often empty follow-ups, meaning the salesperson is calling again, but nothing new has changed in the decision process. The conversation becomes repetitive. Just checking if you had time to review the proposal. Just following up on the quotations we sent. These are the type of communications that happen with the customers. And eventually, the customer stops responding. From the sales team's perspective, it looks like the customer is ignoring them. But from the customer's perspective, the sales conversation never created enough business clarity. Now let me share the 3 deeper problems behind weak follow-ups. In my observation, there are 3 structural gaps that create ineffective follow-ups. Problem number 1 is the sales conversation starts with the product. This is extremely common in MSMEs. The salesperson meets the customer and quickly begins explaining the product. Features are discussed, specifications are described, technical capabilities are highlighted. But the most important step is skipped, and that is understanding the business problem. When the problem is not clearly diagnosed, the proposal becomes generic And when the proposal feels generic, the customer does not feel urgency to act. So the deal enters a waiting state. Now the salesperson begins follow-ups. But the follow-up has no momentum because the underlying business problem was never deeply explored. In such situations, follow-ups feel like reminders rather than meaningful conversations. Problem number 2 is no clear next step. Another pattern I often see in MSME sales conversations is that meetings end without a defined next step. The discussion ends with vague statements such as, "Send me the proposal, we will discuss internally, let us stay in touch." When a meeting ends like this, the deal enters what I call the fog zone. The salesperson does not know what the customer actually needs to move forward. The customer has not committed to any specific step, so follow-ups become uncertain. The salesperson keeps calling, hoping something will move, but strong sales conversations do not end in vagueness. They end with clarity. A clear next step might be a technical evaluation meeting involving another decision maker, reviewing the financial justification, conducting a pilot trial like this. When the next step is defined, follow-ups becomes progress conversations. Without that clarity, follow-ups remain vague. Third problem is sales lives inside individuals instead of systems. This is perhaps the most important issue. In many MSMEs, sales knowledge lives inside individual salespeople rather than inside a system. One salesperson maintains notes in a diary, another keeps everything in their memory. A third tracks deals in Excel. When information is scattered like this, follow-ups depend on personal discipline rather than organizational structure. Some deals are followed up properly, others are forgotten. Opportunities disappear silently. A simple CRM system can dramatically improve this situation, not because technology solves sales problems automatically, but because it creates visibility and discipline in the process. Now, let me illustrate this with a realistic scenario. Imagine an MSME that manufactures automation equipment for packaging plants. A salesperson meets the production manager of a factory. In the meeting, the salesperson spends most of the time explaining the technical features of the automation system. The production manager listens and says, "Please send a proposal." The proposal is sent. Now the salesperson begins follow-ups. Every few days, the salesperson calls, "Sir, just checking if you reviewed the proposal." But internally, the production manager has not yet built a business case. He has not yet discussed the investment with the management team. He has not yet calculated the cost savings. So the proposal remains in the inbox. From the salesperson's perspective, it looks like the customer is not responding. From the customer's perspective, the decision was never fully prepared, and that gap originated in the first meeting itself. This insight is especially important for founders. When sales slow down, founders often increase pressure on the sales team. They ask for more follow-ups, more calls, more reminders. But pressure cannot compensate for weak structure. Instead, founders should ask deeper questions. Are our sales conversations diagnosing customer problems clearly? Are our meetings ending with defined next steps? Do we have a system that tracks opportunities consistently? When these elements improve, follow-ups become far more effective. Now, here are some practical actions for MSME sales teams I can think of. If you are a founder or sales leader listening to this episode, here are 3 practical actions you can implement immediately. First, train your sales team to spend more time understanding the customer's business problem before presenting the product. Second, ensure that every sales meeting ends with a clearly defined next step. Third, introduce a simple CRM or pipeline tracking system so that opportunities do not disappear into personal notebooks. These steps sound simple, but when implemented consistently, they dramatically improve deal movement. So the next time someone says our problem is that the sales team does not follow up enough, pause for a moment. Follow-ups are rarely the root problem. More often, they are a reflection of deeper gaps in the sales process. When the foundations are strong, problem diagnosis, clear next steps, and system discipline, follow-ups become natural progress conversations, and that is when deals begin to move forward. If this episode helped you rethink how sales follow-ups actually work, share it with a fellow MSME founder or sales professional who is trying to improve their sales process. You can also follow the MSME Growth Hub podcast for more practical insights on building disciplined sales systems in MSMEs.